Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Rush, and I'd like to welcome you to the 2026 edition of Love Data Week at ICPSR. We're happy to have you join us today for our webinar titled DSDR Marks the Spot, Finding Quality Population Health Data Resources. I'm pleased to welcome my co-presenters, Trent Alexander and Kelly Ogden-Schutte. Trent will get us started today. And with that, Trent, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, Trent Alexander. Thanks very much for joining us today. So I'm the director of the project. I'm a relatively new director, just a few months in, and this is actually my first presentation on the project, so very exciting. Um, Sarah, can you advance? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about what we are and who we are and sort of why we exist. And then Sarah and Kelly are going to show you how to find data that we provide and resources we have for data users, how to access the data. And for public data, that's as simple as downloading it. But we also offer quite a bit of restricted data where there are more involved processes that we do that we support. And if you are a data producer, how you can share data with us and what we'll do when you do share it with us. And then we'll conclude by looking ahead to a couple things that are coming soon. Okay. So what we are data sharing for demographic research. We call ourselves DSDR. You'll hear that quite a bit. We're a population health data archive, and we're funded by the Population Dynamics branch of the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, NICHD, which is one of the institutes at NIH. And we're hosted here at ICPSR. That's where we all work at University of Michigan, and we have been for more than 20 years. And to actually, can you go back for 1 second? Our main purpose, just to give you the really quick overview, is to preserve and share data produced by NICHD awardees. We document it really well so that it's very findable. We share it, and that includes the secure sharing, which you'll hear more about. We support its use when people have questions about how to use it, and we preserve it forever. So if you're planning an NICHD award, like if you're planning a proposal or if you've recently gotten a grant that involves making data, or if you want to use any of the data that other awardees have made, and there's a lot of it, which we'll talk about, that's why we're here. So we want to hear from you. Okay. Uh, really briefly, who we are. So I'm Trent. I'm a historical demographer, and like I said, I'm pretty new on this project, but I've been working on, actually, my very first job was an NICHD funded project. That was 25 years ago. And I've been pretty involved with work at NICHD and the Population Dynamics branch for most of my career. So I'm thrilled to be in this role. And Sarah Rush is our senior data project manager. She's been working on this project for 10 years. She knows basically everything and has shown me the ropes over the last 6 months. And Kelly Ogden-Schutte is going to tell you quite a bit about restricted data. That's a really, really important part of what we do, is sharing restricted data securely. And she's been on the project for 7 years too. So we have a lot of experience on the team. I will take a moment. You're all here. I assume no one's a skeptic, but perhaps you are. Why do you actually need a data archive? You might be thinking, well, I know how to use Dropbox, or I have a website where I can share things, or I even have an institutional repository. And that's fine, but we are actually true believers in using a bona fide data archive like ourselves. And for the record, if NICHD funding is important to you or something you're interested in the future, they are true believers too. They make huge investments in data collection, you know, in support of the researchers' projects. There'll be a part of your project where you're making the data and then a part of it where you're producing research. That's great. They're funding all of that. But that data collection, it is critical to them that that data be shareable in the future, even if it's highly sensitive data. They want it to be shareable. And that's why we're here. So particularly if you have received funding from NICHD for your data collection, We're going to work hard to make that data more discoverable, to share it responsibly, to support people who are using it, and as I said before, to ensure that it's available and safe for the long term, even when you may have moved on to your area, to other areas of research, or to other careers. We will be here resharing this data. And that's why it's important to NICHD in particular, that these investments that they're making are long-term investments. Um, so, okay, let's go forward. A little more detail on how we can help. Um, we'll help you find data. We have tools to help you find data. We'll actually also help you find it ourselves if you would like. Um, these are just some of the topics on the left there that we have really important data resources on: maternal and child health, health disparities, families and households, migration and immigration. And as I've mentioned, we have tools to make it really easy to access the data, even the restricted data. It is a process, but we have very clear guidelines, and Kelly is very good at what she does. She will walk you through the process, and it will not be as painful as perhaps some restricted data processes you might have experienced. Um, but even before you download the data, you could do analysis online to make sure, we have multiple tools that allow you to do that right from our study. We call them study homepages. That's the page where all the data is documented. We have two different types of analysis tools that you can use before downloading it if you would like to sort of look a little deeper, to explore it, to see what's in it. Um, and if you are using restricted data, it depends on the sensitivity of the data set, but it might be that we're going to sort of point you down a path of secure download, where you enter an agreement with us and then you will download it and use it on your own machine. Or alternatively, for more sensitive data, we might send you down a path of using our virtual data enclave, which provides a higher level of security. Or perhaps in a very small number of cases, our physical data enclave, which is a room here in Ann Arbor for the most sensitive data that we have. And if you are making data, we are going to help you tell NICHD what your sharing plans are. And so your data sharing, meeting their data sharing requirements. And of course, we're going to help you preserve it and share it. And this is going to make them very happy. We are going to help you look good in your grant application and certainly thereafter. They are very interested in data sharing plans, particularly in the population dynamics branch. This is important. That's why we exist. Okay. So what you'll find on our website is a lot, 1,000 studies, and we'll talk a little more about this, but each study can actually have multiple data sets. So we have well over 1,000 of those because we've been here for 24 years. And 170 situations where we're providing detailed metadata to external studies. So there are various reasons why data that someone makes with their NICHD funding won't be housed here at University of Michigan, or can't be for some reason, and that's fine. We're still going to help document those studies and point you to where the data is. So that's what that 170 plus is. When we document a data set, we document it very thoroughly. So we're digitizing everything about every variable and sharing it. And over the 1,000 plus studies that we have, that's 1.6 million variables that are searchable as a whole. If you would like, as a way to, but certainly within each study homepage, you can use that to really discover what's going on with each variable. Or overall, you can search across studies, the variables as well. One other service we provide, and this is the bottom item here, is when we have documented a study and we're sharing it, we're also actively looking for publications that have used the data. This helps people better understand what can be done with the data. And it helps the NICHD understand how useful the data is as a secondary artifact. They already know how useful it's been to you because you've told them through your annual reporting. But this is a way for them to track how other people have found your data useful, and we do that work. Okay, I'm just going to walk really quickly through some of our top studies and some interesting studies. In the past year, here are the 5 that are the most downloaded. The National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent to Adult Health. You may have heard it called AdHealth. This started in 1994 with high school students, and there have been successive waves ever since. This is kind of an interesting one because they were adolescents in 1994. They are not anymore. So this is actually future waves of this are shifting to our National Institute on Aging funded archive here at ICPSR because they're aging. They're no longer adolescents, but all current waves are right here in our archive. The India human, I'm going to walk a little more quickly. These are all longitudinal studies where they're following individuals over time in multiple waves. And this the India Human Development Survey, Future of Families and Child Well-Being Study, the New Immigrant Survey, and then finally the National Couples Health and Time Study, um, which is just completed its second wave, I believe. And it's a really, really interesting study that is combining detailed health information with time diaries. So it's, really tracking what people are doing through the course of a day and who they're doing it with and coding that in a really, really easy to use way. So really exciting data, and these are our most popular data, these five. And some other things that we've put out this year. The child trauma data collection series, we put out 7 of these this year. There's 12 in our holdings total. And these are really interesting. They're produced by different researchers in different places at different points in time. And the child trauma data collection is an effort to integrate them, to make them easier to use together. And they each one focuses on a different type of trauma, basically. And typically is either retrospective or does follow children forward as they're aging after experiencing a trauma. The Katrina at 10 series started in 2015, 10 years after Hurricane Katrina, and it's got a retrospective and a prospective component. And we released 3 new studies from that effort this year. Asian women working in massage parlors in New York City and Los Angeles. This is an example of qualitative data that we have released. So this is, I think, about 120 interviews, detailed qualitative interviews with these workers. And we're capable of releasing that kind of data too. So if you have it or if you want it, come here, please. And finally, the TLT 1 and 2 data. This is reproductive health data from Malawi, longitudinal. Okay. Finally, that's okay. Just a couple of other highlights. I'll just talk about the top 2 really briefly. We're really excited to have both of these. Generations is a longitudinal data on LGB people that came out here recently. And TransPop is the first nationally representative sample of transgender individuals. It's not longitudinal, but it is very, very exciting cross-sectional data. So take a look. And I think I'll stop there.
Thanks, Trent. Okay, so in this next section, I'll be talking about how you can discover population health data and resources on the DSDR website. The DSDR website is available at dsdr.icpsr.umich.edu. And from the homepage, there are 2 ways to search for data and related information. The first is the data search, and you can access this using the search drop-down menu or by using the search box in the middle of the homepage. This search should be used if you're looking for information on studies, variables, data-related publications, or series related to your search term. There's also the site content search, which is best when you're interested in announcements, events, help materials, and resources, or other website content related to your search term. Using the data search will return results grouped into different tabs, and the variable tab shows information about each variable that matches your search term, including the variable name, label, type, and the study and data set that it comes from. On the left side of this page, you'll find filters that allow you to narrow your search results by data series, study, name, data set, or time period. These filters can help you home in on the most relevant results. Clicking on a specific variable name will provide more detailed information about that variable, including the question text when it's available, summary statistics, the number of cases, and a direct link to the related study. In this example, you're seeing the first 3 results from my search for siblings and close. Overall, this search returned 180 variables. One feature that I really like about the variable search results display is that it allows you to compare variables in studies archived in DSDR, as well as cross-listed studies, which means that data is available through another ICPSR archive or the ICPSR membership archive, as well as variable metadata-only studies. The variable comparison is especially useful when you want to search across studies for similar variables and then explore the similarities and differences in more detail before selecting variables for your own research. To compare variables, you select them using the checkbox next to each variable name. After clicking the Compare button, the Compare Variables results screen will show you detailed information for each selected variable, including the name, label, question text, response categories, and so forth. In this example, we're looking at a comparison of three variables. The first is from a variable level metadata study, the Panel Study of Income Dynamics, or PSID. The second is from a restricted access study where variable responses have been masked for disclosure protection, which is why you see the blank area in the middle of the page. And the third is from a study where the data are publicly available through DSDR. Data-related publications appear in a separate search tab when you perform a data search. Each citation related to your search term is displayed, along with options to export the citation and access the full text when it's available. In addition, a direct link to the study or studies associated with the publication is provided for further exploration. On each study homepage, Trent mentioned this a little bit before, you'll see a set of tabs that lets you view the study metadata, download data and documentation files, export metadata, and explore both the variables and related publications. The variables tab looks similar to the study search results page that I showed a couple slides ago, and it lists each variable's name, the label or question text, the variable type, and the data set it belongs to. You can also search within the study's variables to quickly find specific variables you're interested in. The Data-Related Publications tab within a study page has a similar layout to the study search results and allows you to search within publications associated with the study, access full text links when available, and export citations. If the study is part of a series, you'll also see a link to the series page at the top of the study page. And this allows you to search across the entire series for variables and related publications, not just within the single study. I'd like to end this section by sharing some search tips and tricks. It's important to first note that when performing a data search, the search terms can appear anywhere in the study title, description, and in the variables themselves, such as the value labels. We recommend using multiple query terms when possible. For example, when I searched for siblings, I got 336 results. I was able to cut that number in nearly half by thinking about what I was really looking for. And in this case, it was about sibling relationships and more specifically, whether siblings were close, which is why in the earlier example, you saw siblings close. I've also mentioned filters being available on the left side of the search results display. I would definitely use those to try to further refine your search results. I also want to mention the DSDR browse page, which can be accessed from the search holdings menu of the main navigation. This page includes links to filtered search results for select subject areas, recent data releases, external data sources, that's the study level metadata, and more. And this can be a good starting point for a search. And finally, I recommend getting creative with their search terms and thinking about alternative ways that a concept could be represented in the data. In the siblings and close example, this could mean searching for children and close. For example, if the questions are asked of a parent, or even using bond instead of close. The ICPSR subject thesaurus of social science terms is a great resource for refining your search terms, and it can be accessed at https://myumi.ch/R3G7D. And with that, I will pass things on to Kelly.
Hello, everybody. Next slide, please. So DSDR's data holdings contain both public use and restricted use data. Public use generally contain no identifiers and pose a minimal disclosure risk. They are immediately downloadable after logging into a free ICPSR account and agreeing to the standard terms of use. The data are available in multiple formats and are sometimes available for online analysis. Restricted data are generally contain indirect identifiers, which can pose a disclosure risk. In the case of these data, any public-facing documentation, such as redacted code books or user guides, will be immediately downloadable. For the data files themselves, these require an application, which includes the Restricted Data Use Agreement. Restricted data archived with DSDR are free to use because the projects are supported by federal funding. Next slide, please. There are options, as Trent alluded to earlier, for online data analysis. For many studies with R data, we have the Explore Data option. This allows for data previews, which provide a quick glimpse of the data with limited numbers of rows and columns, as well as frequencies and crosstabs. Also, we have our Analyze Online system with SDA, which is available for select studies. It allows for recoding and computing of new variables, as well as a wider range of analysis, including regressions. It also allows for the download of custom subsets. Next slide, please. We have different options for accessing restricted data. So we have three options. Secure download. For secure download, the data is used on approved non-networked local machines. It is delivered via an encrypted download link, and the PI and project team are responsible for the self-vetting of results. For our virtual data enclave, the data remains on ICPSR servers, and the data are accessed remotely from approved specific locations. And then the DSDR staff vet for disclosure prior to releasing the results. And then our physical data enclave is an on-site cold room. This is for highly restricted data. This is accessed by appointment, and then all output are vetted on-site prior to release to project team prior to release to the project team. For all access methods, researchers must follow protocols for protecting human subjects. I did want to note that in one of DSDR's strengths is that we have all of our data available in our virtual data enclave. And so for there is the issue of sensitivity, but it is also comes in handy for cross-institutional collaboration, and it came in handy in particular, for example, during the COVID pandemic, in terms of meeting certain security protocols when people couldn't meet the security plans needed for secure download, for example. So that's another value of having our virtual data enclave and having all of our data there. Additional information about each of these methods is provided on the DSDR Access Restricted Data page, which is available under the Resources menu, available at the top right of the DSDR homepage. Next slide, please. So to apply for access to restricted data, there are some requirements. The first is PI eligibility, as confirmed by principal investigator eligibility, as confirmed by the institution. The second is principal investigator education level. This usually requires a terminal degree, such as a PhD, MD, or JD. The third is a restricted data use agreement signed by the PI and a legal representative of the external institution. Next is an IRB review. This can be an approval or an exemption, but we do need one of those. We need confidentiality pledges from all project team members. And we need confidential data security plans by all project team members as well. And last, we need a project description explaining why these particular data are needed for the research. Next slide, please. Documentation is a priority, as Trent was alluding to, for DSDR. Data documentation includes detailed study descriptions. We provide instruments and measures when available. We do code books and frequencies and suggested data citations. We have data guides, which provide additional support and help with common analysis issues such as weighting questions. At the moment, we have guides for Ad Health, the Chitwan Valley Family Series, and the India Human Development Series, and we will be developing additional guides going forward. The resources menu at the top right of the DSDR homepage includes a link to all of the current data guides. And then for our bibliography, we have over 48,000 publications related to the studies in DSDR. These are searchable by study, author, title, and year. These include journals, reports, spoken book chapters, dissertations, and more. And for many of the citations, the full text is available. Next slide, I will hand it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Kelly. In this section, I'm going to cover information related to data sharing and review some of our data-related resources. First, and Trent did a little of this at the beginning, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. I want to cover some of the benefits of depositing your data with DSDR. These include the ability to advance science by making your data available to other researchers for secondary analysis, in addition to meeting funding requirements for data sharing. Files deposited with DSDR are permanently archived and supported through changing technologies, new media, and data formats. Data disseminated through DSDR are available at no charge and are cross-listed through the ICPSR membership archive as well as other topical archives within ICPSR. This increases exposure to a wide range of audiences. Also, all studies released through DSDR receive a direct object identifier, or DOI, which aids in data discoverability. Data deposited with DSDR undergo data curation to enhance and add value to the data. This process includes a disclosure risk review to ensure the confidentiality of study participants is protected. We also build and maintain a bibliography, which you've heard mentioned a couple times, of data-related literature for studies in the DSDR collection and announce data releases when they occur. Finally, we provide ongoing support to researchers and depositors, including consultations during the proposal phase regarding the development of data management and sharing plans, and I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the section. DSDR acquires research data, study and variable level metadata, scales and researcher syntax related to maternal and child health disparities, and the human life cycle with 3 priority areas set by NICHD. The first is data resulting from support by the NICHD Population Dynamics Branch, or PDB. The second is data that provide opportunities for researchers working within the scope of the NICHD Population Dynamics Branch that were supported by other sources. And the third is data resulting from support by the NICHD Division of Extramural Research from sources other than the Population Dynamics Branch that have an emphasis on behavioral and social science research data. DSDR accepts 4 types of deposits that facilitate discoverability: standard, mirror, variable metadata, and study metadata. The first and most common is our standard deposit, in which data and documentation are deposited exclusively with DSDR, and DSDR becomes the sole source through which the data are made available. It's important to note here that restricted data must be a standard deposit, in which DSDR is the only point of access in order to maintain proper protection and management of the restricted data. With the mirror deposit, the same data and documentation are made available for multiple archives, with one archive being designated as the authoritative source. This deposit option is available for public access data only. And one use of a mirror deposit option is for sharing data in specialty archives in different countries or continents, in addition to DSDR. We also allow for the deposit of study and variable metadata. Study metadata is made available through our catalog in the form of Union Catalog records, which allows for data discovery from the external resource in searches conducted at the study level on our site. Variable metadata deposits increase discoverability by allowing for both study level and variable level searching. In this case, variable labels and question text appear on variable search results in addition to the study search results, allowing for the variable comparison that I showed earlier today. The variable metadata deposits can be a good option for ongoing studies that have frequent updates to their data files. And finally, a link to external data sources are provided for both the study and variable metadata records. I want to highlight that some of the benefits of sharing metadata include increased discoverability, interoperability, new analysis possibilities, including the potential for linkages among data sources and combining of DSDR data with new types of data available externally. So how do you start a deposit? First, you're going to go to our data page under the deposit menu on the DSDR website and click the Start Deposit button. We use the ICPSR Deposit Manager to manage our data deposits, and this means you'll need a free Researcher Passport account to log in. Your deposit workspace can be shared with collaborators if you are working with a team. While we encourage you to fill in all study metadata fields, only the title, principal investigator, and summary fields are required. After uploading your files and completing the metadata fields, click the blue Submit to ICPSR button on the right side of the workspace, and this will take you to a page that asks you to agree with the data deposit and dissemination terms, and after that, your deposit is fully submitted. So what should you include in a deposit? Detailed guidance on what should be submitted is also provided on the DSDR deposit data page. I'm going to cover some of the key elements here, starting with data files. We encourage the submission of quantitative data files in SPSS, SAS, or STATA, along with defined variable labels, value labels, and missing data codes. We also accept the deposit of qualitative files, video data, image files such as EEGs, and geospatial data. Documentation is key to supporting secondary analysis of the data and can include many of the documents that Kelly showed on one of her last slides, like code books, data collection instruments, and user guides. Depositing other documentation like project summaries and data-related citations is also encouraged. Basically, anything that you think will help others use the data, we encourage you to deposit and share. We also require the deposit of the respondent consent form template and the IRB approval for preservation purposes, and to also ensure that data sharing complies with the approved study protocols. As I mentioned in my last slide, the deposit system will require the study title, principal investigator, and a summary related to the data being deposited. I want to strongly encourage completion of the study design sample methodology and all other fields as much as you can put in there to support data discovery and secondary analysis. We can also help with data management and sharing plans. We can provide letters of support, endorsing research, and data archiving plans. We can also meet with you about your data sharing plans and needs. There are several resources available from the DSDR deposit data page that may be helpful, including a template data management and sharing plan with language that can be copy, pasted, and modified for use in your own plan. There's also a link on there to, it's an NICHD page where they have highlighted many obstacles or challenges that people have faced in plans submitted to them and how to overcome them. And there are also links to resources from ICPSR, including webinar recordings and instructional videos, recommended informed consent language, and the ICPSR data management plans and grant support page. And with that, I will turn things over to Kelly for our final segment.
Thank you, Sarah. So looking ahead, next slide, please. We have some new data releases planned for 2026. So for new studies, we are looking forward to the Housing and Children's Healthy Development Study and the Malawi Longitudinal Study of Families and Health. And then we are looking forward to additional data sets for the Child Trauma Data Series, Chitwan Valley Family Study Series, Baby's First Years, the NICHD Study of Early Child Care and Youth Development Series, Project My Guarantee Series, the Future of Family and Child Wellbeing Study, that's the public use, and Toledo Adolescent Relationship Study Series. So we are very excited about lots of things. Next slide, please. We would love for you to connect with us. Our link tree includes links to DSDR social media accounts and a number of pages on the DSDR website, including the page to sign up for our quarterly newsletter, and is available via the QR code on the left side of the screen here. That link there is LINKTR period EE/DSDR DATA. And our link tree handle is at the @ sign DSDRDATA. You can also reach out to us by email at dsdr-data@umich.edu if you have any questions. And with that, we will open up the webinar for any questions you have for us.
It looks like I am seeing one question. Is there a cost to deposit data with DSDR? Trent, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The short answer is no. You, as long as your data is within sort of our scope, where, Sarah laid out our priorities, and the top priority is that your data collection was funded by the Population Development Branch of NICHD. They do provide resources for us to curate, preserve, and share the data. The slightly longer answer is if you're able to include cost, pretty nominal costs within your proposal to support the curation and sharing of the data, two good things happen. We can do it more quickly. And it is looked upon favorably by the NICHD because it means that we're going to be able to curate more data. The amount we have for curation is fixed each year. So if you're able to do that, we certainly want to talk and facilitate that. If you're not, that's totally fine too.
Okay, I have another one that came in. Do I really need an IRB for restricted data access since this is for secondary analysis?
I can take that one.
Okay.
Yes, you do. If you're applying to use restricted data from DSDR, we need for an IRB to confirm in writing either that you are not conducting human subjects research, or that if you are, it meets legal and ethical guidelines to ensure the protection of respondents. That is typically why it is restricted data, because there is some sensitivity around the respondents. And that is kind of our highest value here. We don't do a scientific review. We're not going to read your proposal and say, we don't think you should have, that kind of regression won't be best, or we don't think you have the right controls. We do not do that. What we do is ensure that you're following the highest data stewardship practices. And we have a few different steps in the process where we're ensuring data stewardship is, in particular, the respondents are protected. And the IRB letter is a part of that protocol for us.
Thanks, Trent.
I can go ahead and answer that question. All of our data is available in the Virtual Data Enclave. Most of that data is available in secure download. There are a few studies which are only available in the Virtual Data Enclave. So it would depend on which data you're interested in, and I'm happy to talk with you about that. But broadly, almost all of our data are available both directions. And so it's very likely that and what ultimately ends up deciding which way you go with your application usually ends up being whether or not your project team can secure a non-networked machine for the secure download data security plan. And if you can't, then then we're happy to help you apply through the virtual data enclave access approach instead. And so that's one of the values and flexibilities of DSDR in having the data in both places. And then the excellent question, the second question, we get asked that one a lot. The institutional representative needs to be someone who can commit your entire institution legally to the agreement. So usually that is somebody from an office of sponsored research, a contracts officer, a provost, a vice president, someone to that end. Deans, department chairs, those sorts of individuals rarely have that authority. The one exception is for the University of Michigan, because we are at the University of Michigan. There's a slightly different standard if you are applying from the University of Michigan, but otherwise you would want to work with an Office of Sponsored Research or a contracts officer, provost, somebody to that end.
Thanks, Kelly.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here. Please, as always, please reach out if you have questions. We are always happy to talk to you. Have a great rest of your Love Data Week, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you so much for coming.